coming yesterday about the future of the former site of the Homer City Generating Station. Our visit this morning with Representative Struzzi, presented by Marcus & Mack, voted Best Law Firm and Best Personal Injury Lawyer 3 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. So as the stacks and the towers came down, something else was going up, and that was interest in this thing happening in Homer City and what it means for our area. But it really did take a ton of work by you, Senator Pittman, many others in Harrisburg, and just making all the pieces fit at one time. That takes a lot, doesn't it? A lot of effort.
Oh, it certainly does, Todd, and I just have to say that we are genuinely thrilled at what's happening. The announcement yesterday was almost surreal, knowing that we're going to see that plant back into full vitality, bringing all those jobs back, short-term and long-term. But you're right, it took a lot of coordination, a lot of effort to make sure everything came together, everything was in place for that announcement yesterday, for the demolition that occurred a few weeks ago, and for all the work that's been happening behind the scenes. I have to give a lot of credit to the Knighthead Capital Group for their commitment to Indiana County, for their commitment to work with us. You know, Joe and I tried to do everything we can in Harrisburg to make sure that everything was in place, working with the DCED and the Governor's Administration and the Department of Environmental Protection. We were able to secure some funding for some of the pipeline work that will be needed to bring gas to the site. So, but overall, I mean, I think everybody in Indiana County, in Western Pennsylvania, and really in Pennsylvania should be excited at what's coming, what this means for grid reliability, for long-term jobs, short-term jobs. I think it's really a game changer for our community, and particularly Homer Center School District, Homer City, Center Township, in that area. But I mean, this is a generational project that's going to make a difference in our lives for many, many years to come.
In terms of the regulatory roadblocks and hurdles that have to be overcome, that's not insubstantial. There's a lot that has to work from an environmental standpoint, from the state's, the state and the federal government. They both have all kinds of regulations, and we know that it's been difficult with the burning of fossil fuels, and this is a fossil fuel that will be burned here. So to get it up over top of those hurdles, no small feat.
Well, I think in this case we were fortunate to have the infrastructure already in place for the former coal generating station. You know, access to the grid, the water, the rail. All those things were already there. And I think when you look at the larger regulatory picture, we're still struggling with the impacts of the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Mm-hmm. This is the exception, and we're very fortunate for that. But in most cases, it's still taking a long time to get permits. Those overarching bad energy policies are still pushing investment out of this Commonwealth in other areas. As I said, we're blessed to have the announcement that we had yesterday here in Indiana County, but that was the exception. And we were able to get the DEP to work faster, to get some of this stuff expedited, to make sure the DCED and the administration were on board with everything that was happening there. But I think when you look at the overall impact for the Commonwealth, we still need more investment in natural gas production, in fossil fuel production in Pennsylvania, and we still need to get those energy policies out of the way, because I think this is just the tip of the iceberg on what we could see across the entire Commonwealth with the amount of investment that's been proposed, the amount of investments that's been proposed and have gone to other states previous to now. This is the first major investment in natural gas in Pennsylvania in many, many years. As we all know, this is the largest ever in Pennsylvania. But there are other entities out there that want to do similar developments like we're going to see in Homer City and other parts of this Commonwealth that simply aren't happening, again, because we still have those bad energy policies in place.
We have the major pipeline in the Blairsville area that will feed this power plant. I would assume, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that there's going to have to be a major upgrade. If not to that pipeline, it might be set, as far as I know. But other infrastructure that is going to bring gas to this plant.
Yeah, I don't know all the specifics, Todd, but as I said, we did secure some state funding, Senator Pittman and myself, to help them get that work done. So there will be some pipeline work needed to bring gas to the site, yes, definitely.
All right, so the construction jobs, mind-boggling, the number of jobs that they're talking about to get this plant built. But those are the temporary jobs, wonderful,
absolutely,
but temporary. The permanent jobs are what are of course, the ones that we are most interested in. And there's a substantial number of those coming too.
Yeah, according to their press release, we're talking about 1,000 direct and indirect jobs to basically staff that gas fire generating electricity, and then the AI centers that will come after that. So they're saying up to 1,000 jobs, and I think that's simply incredible. And then, we've heard some different numbers on the construction jobs, but I know that the Boilermakers and the other trade unions are very excited. If you heard Sean Steffi comment yesterday, and I've had some meetings with Sean up to this point, they're seeing all their guys go to other states because of all the investment that occurs in Ohio, West Virginia, and Texas. And now we can bring those people back. We can bring those families back to our community. That helps us here in Indiana County with our tax base. That helps us in Pennsylvania with our revenues. And that's the message that we've been saying for a long time here in Pennsylvania, that, because of RGGI and bad energy policy and things like that, these investments have gone to other states. And now we can bring them back if we continue to move in this direction, embrace the natural resources we have here in Pennsylvania, and get the bad energy policy out of the way.
The data storage capabilities that everybody is talking about, we know that, from here basically to Washington, D.C., is going to become a real major corridor for data storage for the entire eastern United States and even beyond there. When we think about those jobs and what it does for the support industry around it, there could be all kinds of construction happening all over this region, and Indiana County can benefit from that. But we really, we don't know right now what we're about to see, the explosion of jobs and technology that are potentially there.
And I think that's the message that I'm saying, Todd, is this is huge for Indiana County, but we could see even more. We have to open up our arms and embrace it. We have to invite it to Pennsylvania. And right now that's not happening. We're very fortunate that, this group is committed to Indiana County and Pennsylvania because they have the infrastructure in place, and they see what this investment will bring. We need to bring more of that to this Commonwealth, and we can do that. And that's the steps we need to take in that direction, because you said it. I mean, this is huge. This is the future. AI, the data centers, all that kind of storage capacity that's needed. It has to be somewhere. Why not here in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. All right. So that's it's just wonderful news. There are going to be breaking stories about this over and over and over again. I think folks need to realize as well that there will be snags and roadblocks along the way. This isn't going to be a smooth, the announcement yesterday and then the plant opening up tomorrow. It's not going to be like that. There's going to be some things to overcome.
Sure. I mean, they're going to have to hire a lot of employees. There's a lot of work that needs to occur. You still have some demolition to work to get done, and then a massive amount of construction. People should go to their website. I think it's homercitydevelopment.com, where they lay out the whole plan. They have contacts on there if you're looking for some business opportunities or a job. I would go to their website and try to learn as much as you can about it. But I think overall the message to our community is this is great news for Indiana County and Western Pennsylvania, and we're just simply thrilled that they have made this commitment to our community.
What does it do for institutions such as IUP, for our local school districts, for that whole environment?
I think there's multiple opportunities for IUP. I was just up at ICTC yesterday, met with them, and they're looking at how can we train our high school students to get ready for those jobs that are going to be coming to Homer City. So I think there's opportunity across the board, both at the high school level and at the college level. IUP can certainly, partner with them to do internships, technology, testing, all that sort of stuff. So I think the benefits are widespread across the region. When you're talking that significant of an investment, $10 billion, I mean, it's almost unfathomable when you think about it. And as I said at the beginning of our interview, it's almost surreal. But when you really think about it, it is so incredibly exciting.
And for you, it represents the chance to maybe not talk about the state budget for a day or so, because those conversations, as exciting as all that is, there's a lot that you're working on right now and have been working on. State budget right at the top of your list.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. And in this new position that I've had for just a few months now as the appropriations chairman for the Republican caucus, I wrestle with all this stuff. How are we going to balance the budget? How are we going to fund the things that we need to fund? And I think a project like the Homer City project helps us do that, because it's going to bring revenues into our state that we are seriously lacking right now. With all these jobs coming back, with all this investment, we'll see our revenues increase. That makes it easier for us to try and balance the budget, because we know there are needs that have to be met out there. We know that we're already on the hook for $1.3 billion in Medicaid expenses through the Department of Human Services and other inflationary costs that we have to fund across the board for some of these administrations. Now, we know the governor's spending request is excessive, $3.5 billion, and that's way in excess of what we think we're going to have as revenues. But again, when you talk about investment, that's the message that we have been saying, since the budget proposal was announced, is we have to bring energy back to Pennsylvania. And we're going to see that right here in Homer City. And I think if you saw that across the board in this Commonwealth for all these other sites that have been proposed, you'll see those revenues get to where we need to be. So we aren't talking about cutting anything. We're not talking about holding the line on certain things that we have to provide in the area of human services or in law enforcement or anything like that, or agriculture. And speaking of, Secretary Redding will be here tomorrow for my agriculture breakfast, which is exciting. We can talk about that later. But I think, when we're talking about the state budget, we're talking about billions of dollars. But here we are talking about a $10 billion investment that will certainly make a huge difference in this Commonwealth.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe that eases the pressure on the most pressing concerns, which are, there are plenty of concerns for Pennsylvania. I think roads and bridges are right at the top of the list.
Absolutely.
Those things have to be fixed, especially those bridges.
Yeah. I mean, when we're in Harrisburg talking about millions of dollars, how do we, everyone needs something. And somebody has to, not everybody gets everything they want in the budget process because we simply don't have the money. That's the challenge that we've faced for several years now. And then the Shapiro administration comes in and asks for this, exorbitant amount of spending that we simply don't have. That makes it very difficult for us to try and rein all this in a more realistic, common sense approach that it's taxpayer dollars we're talking about here. We can't just frivolously throw millions of dollars here and there. We have to be responsible with that money and make sure it's being used in the most efficient and effective manner possible. And that is what we're wrestling with in Harrisburg right now.
Yeah. Okay. So that conversation goes on. Of course, the budget is due by June the 30th, and we'll know as we get closer to that date whether that's a realistic possibility or not. All right. The agriculture breakfast tomorrow.
Yes. Tomorrow, I'm very excited. We're going to have the Secretary of the Department of Ag, Russell Redding, here in Indiana County. We have our farmers breakfast at Brush Valley Volunteer Fire Company from 9 to 11. Tomorrow, I think people can still register if they'd like. Just give our office a call, 724-465-0220. Again, that's tomorrow. And then next Saturday, we have our second annual Youth Fishing Derby down at Young Township in their community park, in the pond that's by their municipal building. And I'm really excited about that. It went so well last year. The kids had a great time. The Fish and Boat Commission come out. So we encourage everybody to come out. That's free. Tomorrow is free as well. So we have the Ag Breakfast tomorrow. Then next Saturday, April 12th, is our Fishing Derby at Young Township. And again, that's free. We encourage kids to come out. There'll be great prizes, food. We appreciate all the people who sponsor this stuff that allow me to put these things together and offer these to our community.
It's interesting when you mention things such as that. Immediately now we think, okay, with the Homer City situation and the potential for a real uptick in our economy, those things can happen again. We think of the economy for our area, the offerings that Indiana County has, the trails, the parks, all of these different things that can get maintenance now that they have not been able to get for quite some time. It could really signal a brand new rebirth for Indiana County.
It will. It certainly will, both for Indiana County and our region, because those are revenues that we don't have right now. The county commissioners struggle with their budgets. We struggle with our state budget. If we have more revenues, if we have more people living in Pennsylvania, living in our communities, paying taxes, going to local restaurants, using local products and services, that boosts the economy for everyone, and that allows us then to lower the cost for everyone as well. When you have higher revenues, you don't need additional tax money.
Yeah, think of the housing in Indiana County.
Yeah.
That's really going to have to get upgraded.
Oh, when you really wrap your head around this, Todd, it's an incredible opportunity for us here locally. And as I said, we are genuinely excited about at what's going to happen.
He is State Representative Jim Struzzi. Back in Harrisburg next week?
Yes, we are.
All right. Well, work ahead.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Thanks so much for coming in. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com. People want to go to that breakfast. What do they need to do?
They can go on my website, repstruzzi.com, or they can call the office, 724-465-0220.
Appreciate it.
Thank
It's
you.
Indiana in the Morning. Fox News next, then Josh from the WCCS Newsroom.